So, good morning, math class. Today we are talking about kind of getting an introduction to finding the areas. Now, you actually had a little bit of an introduction to that on your math sheet yesterday. It was a very simple finding areas, but it was a little bit of an introduction going into what we're doing today. So, when we find the area of an object, where the area measures the surface of any simple closed figure, whether it would be, remember, a simple closed figure is just any figure that's made up of lined segments. So it could be a square, it could be a parallelogram, a rhombus. A triangle is a simple closed figure. So any simple closed figure made up of lined segments, we can find the area for it because we're measuring the surface. Now the simple closed figure, whatever we're finding the area for, is divided into square units. So if I took this rectangle and I divided it and I made sure these were perfectly equal square units, whether that square unit would be inches or feet or yards or centimeters, any unit of measurement, no matter what that measurement is, if I made sure I had square units, I would count up those square units and that would tell me the area of that simple closed figure. So just keep that in mind. If you want to go ahead and get your notes, I believe we took notes on perimeter, and add this to your perimeter note sheet. If you kept that, that would be great. If not, you might want to pause the video and go ahead and write these notes down because they will be helpful to you, okay? And then we will actually be finding areas tomorrow, but today that was just a little introduction to it. Go ahead and get your math book out and open it to page 259. So on page 259 in section 1, it says find the area by counting each square unit. So you're going to literally count each little square there, or you can count the squares over and count the squares up and multiply, right? Because they're squares, it's going to be the same. You can either count each and every little square or count down. Like let's see, going down, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and going across there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can count each row by 6s, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, or you can count each one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, blah, blah, blah. Or you can say 6 times 6 is 36, and it would be 36. Sorry, I didn't know who was in the kitchen. 36 square units. And you'll do the same for B and the same for C. In section 2, you're going to find the perimeter of these shapes. It says, if necessary, convert to the lesser unit. So if you notice, let's see one that it might be necessary to do so. In your rectangle on letter C, you have 4 feet 8 inches for your length, and your width is 16 inches. So you're going to have to convert your 4 feet to inches and add that to the 8 inches for your length, okay? Before you start your conversion there. And then on letter F, you can skip letter F with your with the metric units of measurement right there. You can just skip letter F. So go ahead and you'll complete that. And then look, turn your papers over to page 260. On page 260, we have story problems. I want to go through some of them with you. Aaron bought 1/4 pound of peanuts for 98 cents. If Aaron had bought 1 pound, how much would it have cost? So you're going to take that 1/4 and you are going to turn it into 4, right? Because there's 4 1/4 in a pound, right? 1/4 of a pound, 2/4 of a pound, 3/4 of a pound, 4/4 or 1 pound, right? And you're going to multiply 98 cents times 4, and that'll tell you how much that a whole pound of peanuts would have cost, okay? Go ahead and look at section D. In section D, it says, yesterday, Sydney finished her arithmetic worksheet in 30 minutes. What part of an hour is 30 minutes? So your 30 is going to be your numerator, and how many minutes are in an hour? That is going to be 60, of course. And then you're just going to reduce 30 over 60. Letter E, Caden bought 4 pink brought 4 pink roses to his teacher. 4 roses is what part of a dozen roses? So 4 is your numerator because we're talking about what part. How many are in a dozen? 12. So 4/12 would be your fraction, which can be reduced. So you'll need to reduce that for your final answer. And then letter F. Miss Rodriguez bought 9 mints for 72 cents. How much would a dozen mints cost at that rate? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to divide that 72 cents by the 9 mints that she bought, okay? Which would be 72 divided by 9 is 8. And then you're going to take that 8 cents and multiply it by a dozen, which would be 12, and write your final answer. And then letter G, Ryan bought a skateboard for $50. The skateboard was reduced by $12. Reduced means $12 was taken off the price. So what was the original cost? So you're going to have to take your $50, because that's what he paid for it. But they had already taken $12 off. They want to know what the price was originally. You're just going to put that $12 back onto the $50 to see what the original price was. They're not asking what he paid for it. They're telling you what he paid for it. They wanted to know what it was before the price was discounted, okay? And then go ahead and look at section 5. Find the number of degrees in the third angle of the triangle. So if we have 78 degrees and 29 degrees, we're going to add them together. (78) plus 29. 8 and 9 is 17. Put 7 down, carry your 1. 8, 9, 10. 107. And we're going to subtract that from 180 degrees. Because remember, the angles of a triangle equal 180. Okay? So our third angle will be 73 degrees. All right, so you will go ahead and finish those. As a matter of fact, on those, just do letter A, do the one that we did together, and do letter B and C. And then let's look at section 7. Write correctly using decimals and mixed decimals. We're going to write 9/10. Remember, on our decimals, after our, let me erase this real quick. There's our decimal right here. And after our decimals, we have tenths with the TH. We have hundredths with the TH. We have thousandths with the TH, okay? So if we're going to write 9/10, then we are going to write, let me put my decimal here. Then we're going to write 0.9 for 9/10. Next we have 18 thousandths. So our 18 is going to have to end in the thousandths place. So we'll have our decimal. I'm going to go ahead and put my 8 under the thousandths place. There's my 18, and I'll fill it in with my 0. 0.018 is 18 thousandths. Then we have 4 and 62 hundredths. Remember, the and goes where the decimal would be. So our 4 would be out here. 4 and 62 hundredths. Our 62 has to end in the hundredths place. Then we have 114 thousandths. So we'll put our decimal. Our 4 has to end out there in the thousandths place. 114 thousandths. And then we have 16 and 7 hundredths. Remember, our and is where the decimal would go. So 16 and my 7 has to end in the hundredths place. So I'll have to put a 0 in front of it. 16 and 7 hundredths. And then at the bottom, let's look at section 8 at the bottom. It says insert the necessary decimal points in the products. So we have 16.3 times 7.8. How many decimal places are in your first factor? There is 1. How many decimal places are in the second factor? There is 1. So in your product, in your answer, you will have 2 decimal places. So it would be, you would count over from your 4, 1, 2. So your answer would be 127.2 3.14. Look at letter B. How many decimal places are in your first factor? 1. How many decimal places are in your second factor? 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So in your answer, you will count over 2 decimal places. So your answer will be 1.82. Look at letter C. How many decimal places are in our first product? 1. How many are in the second product? 1. So we will count over 2 places for our decimal. So we will start at the 10 and we will count over 1, 2. So our decimal will be 0.10. Look at letter D. How many decimal places are in the first product? We have 2. How many are in the second product? We have 2. So that would be 4 decimal places. So you will count over 4 and your answer will be 3.157. Guys, go back to letter C. All I have is the answer in here, and there's no decimal in my answer, so let's multiply that together. 12.5 times 0.8. That is what it says, yes. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16. 20, put 0 down, carry the 2, 8, 9, 10, 0. Everything else is 0. So if we come over 1, 2, it would not be 0.0, guys. Because if we just come over 2 places from there, it would be 10 point. Remember, every answer ends with a decimal. We just don't write our decimal. So go back to letter C, and the answer is just 10. There's no decimal in there because when you multiply it out, we have these zeros that we can count over by. I was just going by the answer in the book and adding the decimals in there. Okay? And then look at letter B too. I think that one probably come out the same way. 5.2 times 3.5. 5.2 times 3.5. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 5 is 25, 26. 0. 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 3 is 15. 0, 12. 8 and 1. And we count over 1, 2 places. So our decimal could be 18.2 because we don't have to write that 0 at the end. So that was kind of tricky because I was just counting over by the answer that's in the book. The multiplying is not there. So I was thinking, oh, they made typos in the book. But when you multiply it out, remember, you can leave the zeros off the end of a decimal and it doesn't change the value of it. So letter B is 18.2. So when you do the rest of that, when you do letters E, F, G, and H, multiply them out on paper and look at the answer and move your decimals that way so that you can put the decimal correctly in your books, okay? All right, so your interactive worksheet for today is it is ordering decimals. So I always think those are a lot of fun. You know, Miss McDermott loves ordering decimals, but it's a pretty easy one. They only go out to the hundredths place, and everything already has the same name. So all you have to do is look at the number, pretend the decimal's not there, and put those numbers in order from least to greatest. So it'll be a pretty fun, easy exercise. Be sure on that bottom, though, on section 9 or 8, that you do multiply those numbers out and just don't go by the answer that's in the book because they've left the zeros and things out that you would need to count over, okay? All right, I will see you guys in language.